So we're going to get into the first icebreaker question today, and that is, and it's kind of pertaining to what you're doing, and that is, what is the effect that the shutdown that we've had due to this virus? How does this affect Hollywood and filmmaking? And then what will the future look like, do you think, for the business and then possibly even movie theaters moving forward?
I think movie theaters are going to become a niche market. Personally, I think they're going to slowly become a niche market as people are watching things at their home and they don't want to spend that kind of money to go see movies. Along with the fact that movie theaters are going to be shutting down. So a lot of movie theaters aren't going to be able to make it through this whole quarantine thing. But I do think that the people that love movies will continue to go see them in theaters. As far as consumption goes of film, people will still go see them, even though they're streaming them at home. I just don't think as many big movies are going to be released in theaters. A lot of them will be released direct to Netflix, almost like a direct to DVD kind of thing that was happening back in the 90s.
And they also say, video on demand, VOD, that's a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as Hollywood goes, as far as like the actual filming process, it is currently in shutdown. Hollywood, like the filming aspect, is currently in shutdown. Like I said, I've been really lucky in that I have friends in production companies. I was actually just in Texas. I was just in Texas working on a project for a little bit, and I'm back here now. But LA is shut down, and they've moved all auditions, which are you send in tapes and stuff, but then you get called into a room and you do producer sessions where you go in front of a camera and they screen test you and see how you look with the other actor or actress or whatever. They're doing none of that now. They're doing it over Zoom calls. They're doing it over the internet. They're doing everything online now. So I think the industry is going to have some sort of wake-up call where they start pushing more for that.
Wow.
It's a crazy time. It's a crazy time for film. So I'm excited to see what it does, and I'm also terrified.
Yeah. For me,
it's like riding a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Scared, but you're like, well, this could be exciting.
And I may throw up. It's exactly the same.
Right. They might be like, is my seatbelt on all the way? I don't know. But if it's not, oh, well, this is part of it.
Yeah, it's just more fun that way.
I know for me that, like, the idea that movie theaters are going to have a tough time through this, that's really kind of shooken me up a little bit. I know that it's not going to be all of them, because I know that for a fact that market is still very prominent, and that people want to go back to the movies. They want to be there and see it, on the big screen where it's meant to be. But Lane, what do you feel about all this?
Yeah, I think Swayde hit the nail on the head, because it's like a lot of hardcore fans are going to still go see movies that they want to see in the big screen, because it's just a different experience entirely. But a lot of people like myself that are on the fence, I mean, honestly, I can wait till it comes out on Redbox, or just watch it in the comfort of my home, because it's so much more convenient and cheaper. And me personally, I mean, it's so crazy, but instead of moving off my family now I went and got my own Hulu Live account, my own Netflix. So I was like, because who knows how long it's going to last, and they're all using it on their devices. So I was like, well, guess I just got to buckle down and pay the money and get it. But aside from that, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just, I don't think the movie market's ever going to be the same, especially with movie theaters like Alamo Drafthouse that are having that, streaming service that you were talking about before. So, I mean, it's just that much more accessibility, so it's like, why would you want to, go to an uncomfortable movie theater and, spend tons of money on that? You got it on your fingertips right there.
Well, it makes me wonder if, because we've had some filmmakers recently that have released stuff to Netflix and other video on demand, so, like even Martin Scorsese, he put out The Irishman last year, and this is like the old school of directors, and he drops a Netflix movie, and so many people got to see that movie that would probably never gone to the theater to watch it. Even though he did have a limited run in theaters, I thought that was so interesting that someone of his caliber and of his, traditional stature did something like that. Do you see that, Swayde, being something that directors kind of prepare for, of thinking, well, people aren't going to see this on the big screen, they're going to be seeing this at home? Does that change the process at all, or the thinking behind it?
Yeah, it really does. It changes how you the biggest thing it'll change is distribution. It'll change the entire distribution deal, because you can't sell somebody a movie and say, hey, we have this film and we're gonna put it out in theaters, and if it makes this much at the box office, you'll get this much percent. Now you're going to be doing flat deals. You're going to be doing things where you walk into an office and you say, we're going to sell this to Netflix for blank amount of money, and whatever we get back on that, you'll get this percentage. So people are going to buy in earlier on films, almost like a stock type of thing. They'll buy in earlier on films, and then they'll have to see return on investment in people, in a company buying the film instead of a theater playing it over and over and the masses consuming it. Wow. But as far as filming, it will change the way that you shoot some things, like how Christopher Nolan shoots. Christopher Nolan shoots for the big screen and then allows you to see it at home. Mm-hmm. He shoots for the big screen, so he shoots for the large image and the IMAX and the huge, giant spectacle, the spectacle of filmmaking. But I think Martin Scorsese with The Irishman, which felt like I watched the first season of a show with how long it was. Yeah. With The Irishman, how Martin Scorsese described comic book movies as amusement park films or theme parks. I think that style of film, which I would almost consider, I mean, I do consider them still storytelling. I don't think that, and I don't think he doesn't think that. I believe he just kind of mixed his words a little bit. But I do think that style of movie is going to go by the wayside a little bit, because you can't spend $500 million on a film and then go to Netflix and say, hey, pay us $700 million so people can stream it on your service, because only so many people can get another subscription. So they can only make so much more money a month, you know? So it's almost like funneling things down to their base level, where film started with just being storytelling. So it's kind of funneling it all back to just being good storytelling and making a movie about a cool subject, you know, instead of the big explosion and the artistic VFX and stuff.
Yeah, I think this will, especially during this time that everything's shut down, I think that's a big opportunity for creators to kind of take a step back, look at their own career, look at their, you know, their library and back catalog of movies, and kind of think about, okay, what's the next step? What is the next idea? What can I come up with during this, you know, kind of pause that could pay off later, whether that is in a theater, hopefully, or VOD. And kind of thinking, and a lot of studios, I'm sure, are having that same thought of like, okay, what makes sense to put in a theater versus what makes sense to put at home? And like, how do we balance that? And how do we make sure that we're getting a return? Because I know recently with that Trolls movie that came out, that set off a lot of different red flags to theaters, because they missed the opportunity to show that movie and cost them a lot of money. And then, you know, then the studios were like, well, we made a ton of money at home. So like, that's one of those red flags to the industry that are like, okay, is this the solution or is this the solution? It's crazy.
Yeah, I find it absolutely ridiculous and stupid that Trolls World Tour might become one of the most important films in history.
Yeah.
Actually, that's my favorite film. I'm going to go on record and say that. So, you know, that's offensive to me.
We're going to have a long talk later, Lane.
Well, like, even with the fact of like AMC announcing that they're, you know, in the process of filing bankruptcy, like studios in the industry need the big theater chains like that to show their movies. And if AMC goes away, what's left is the smaller theaters, but like a big juggernaut like that would really impact returns on films and how many people can see the movie. And then obviously the overall experience. What have you heard about that whole situation? And I know they were in some debt before this whole thing went down, but I know this has greatly affected them, and might affect the movie theater industry as a whole. What do you know about that?
So as far as the time that I've spent producing and being on the business end of filmmaking, AMC is having trouble because of the lack of content that goes to theaters that people desperately need to see in theaters, people can now wait. You can wait now. You can wait. It'll go to Netflix. It'll go to Hulu. It'll go to whatever. People don't watch. That's what is killing live TV, is the fact that it'll go to Hulu. You'll watch it tomorrow. So I think AMC is now in a place where they're going to constantly have this problem. But they also, just because of the whole Trolls thing and Universal putting that film out without going to theaters, AMC has put out a statement saying that, or their CEO put out a statement saying that he is no longer, or he has a problem with Universal and he's no longer showing Universal films.
Wow. Yeah, I did see that, but I wasn't sure what all that entailed. Like if that was a done deal or if that was like kind of the repercussions if they decided to go forward with that.
I think he just made a very bold statement, and Universal kind of came back with a hard head shake of, all right, fine. If you want to do that, then we won't send them to you, which is really strange because at Universal Studios here in LA, the theater on the Universal lot is an AMC theater.
Wow.
So that's definitely going to be a long conversation, I think. But from the distribution end of things, this is a really strange, and quarantine has really pushed it. It's gone from a guy standing on a ledge thinking, I may jump, to someone running up behind him and just shoving him off the ledge. So let's hope that the film industry has a parachute, because it's going to be a tough ride.
Yeah, especially if they boycott all the Universal films. Like those are some big money makers for, not only the studios, with billions of dollars, but like the theaters themselves. Like they want those movies. They want the Fast and the Furious and things like that because they know people will show up and they'll make money off the concessions. So that's such a big wrench in the entire process. And then it doesn't help that there's all these corporate buyouts that are shrinking the amount of studios in general. Now that Disney owns Fox, or at least most of the property of the 20th Century Fox brand, they have that decision whether or not they want to put something out into the theater that they think will have a return, or think about, does this go on Disney Plus or Hulu? So they have such a big head in the game of what they can do that will affect everything.
Yeah, their purchase of large companies like that is scary for, I say smaller companies, but they're not really smaller companies. People like Lionsgate and A24 and Blumhouse, all those kind of companies that they produce movies and purchase movies and put out these films through Universal or through whatever they do. It's scary for those smaller companies, because how do you compete with the marketing of a giant corporation? It's turning it into a corporate versus boutique mentality.
Yeah.
Which, hey, as a filmmaker and a writer and a director and actor and whatever I do on a set, it is a little exciting to me, because it means everybody right now, especially in quarantine, and with Netflix being on the verge of like needing new content, it's great for people like me, because I can now readily produce something for $50,000, $75,000 instead of the $500,000 budget, and which is still considered very low budget. $500,000 is very low budget. But there's what's called modified low budget, which is like $50,000, which is absolutely nothing. It's absolutely nothing in the film world. But now you can make a movie for $50,000, and you can go to Netflix and sell it. You can sell it for $100,000. They'll buy it for $100,000 right out from under you if you make a decent movie, because they're dying for content. It's not about they're dying for good stories or anything. They're dying for content. So now from a business standpoint, I can go produce a small movie and say, hey, $50,000, $75,000, we'll sell it to you for $100,000 or $125,000. And immediately it's like it's almost like house flipping now. I'm not worried about the $5 million home and going to a realtor and selling it. I'm worried about buying a $30,000 home, turning it into a $90,000 home, and selling it for 120.
Now Hollywood is basically just HDTV.
Exactly. It's turning into house flipping, man. I'm not kidding you. It's a house flipper market.
What were you saying, Lane?
So what I'm hearing is, let's go ahead and make a movie, and we'll get on the top 10 on Netflix, and then we should be able to do it this week.
Listen, if you call up a distributor right now during the quarantine and you say, hey, I've got a movie that has to do with the coronavirus, or I have a movie that has to do with illness or with this or that, you can call up any distributor and say, hey, I've got a movie. It's already done and it's ready for you. And they'll buy it immediately because
okay. I'll be right back. Y'all give me a second.
Yeah, give me 20 minutes. You're gonna
20 minutes. That's crazy though. Oh my gosh.
So with all that information that he just shared with us, me being someone who values the movie theater experience, and just kind of going out, seeing it on the big screen, experiencing it for what the filmmaker intended it for, to where, like you, Lane, where you're willing to wait. And now that you have all this information, what do you think it will look like for you moving forward?
I mean, for me personally, like I said, I don't mind waiting. I wait for the big hitting blockbuster movies to hit theaters. But even then, like I said, I don't know if I'm willing to trade the expense for versus comfort approach. You know, like I'd rather just save money, honestly, and stay home because I'm more comfortable doing it that way. I don't know if that's me getting older or it's just more convenient. Because when I was a kid, I loved going to the theater, but now I'm kind of like, I don't know, it's not as glamorous as you'd think.
Mm-hmm.
That's me personally, though. I know, a lot of people might disagree, but also a lot of people probably agree. So.
And it doesn't help that they've, boosted the prices of tickets, concessions, and that's only for the theater's sake. But the problem is that's driving away people because of that whole situation.
Yeah, because it's kind of like a curve, It's like you increase the prices a bunch, but if you get past that sweet point, it start to go way down as opposed to having them super cheap, where a lot of people are like, well, they're not making a profit if they're that cheap. 1,000 people could buy it, but if they're $1 a ticket, and it's like you're not making money anyway. So, but they kind of have to catch up. So that's where it's hurting them because you can't just keep selling them at the same price. So they're just kind of stuck in a, between a rock and a hard place.
Well, 50 years ago, you could go to the picture show for 5 cents, And
shoot, I could have backed my truck up. Yeah, we could have had a freaking ball. We just the diner get you a shake and a drink, a burger for only a nickel.
Exactly. But
we need to go back to those times. Maybe that's what's happening. We're just hitting the reset button. We're going to go back to those times.
Good.
I know, right? I wouldn't be opposed to that.
That would be interesting because I know places like, Alamo Drafthouse, who I'm going to plug any chance I get, because they are doing it right. They focus more on not the money, but the community. And so what gets me going back every time is it's the brand, it's the community. It's just what they bring to the table is so different from like an AMC or like a Cinemark would do. And so I feel like you were saying earlier, it being a niche market, that's really going to be the name of the game, is what can you provide that the big dogs won't, and that's what's going to keep you in business. Because I know that people right now, with Alamo being out, it's kind of become a thing where like people are just crawling to get back. I know I am, but at the same time, because of this whole situation, that may not be the case for a lot of people because they're going to be, a little paranoid or a little hesitant to come back because of all the safety hazards.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder if the movies that are set to come out later this summer, or even later this year, will even have a theatrical run, and how that's going to affect the return, which is exactly what you were, pointing on earlier.
Mm-hmm. I really think that we're going to see as far as filmmaking, a resurgence in true storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be this Fast and Furious world or seeing Marvel characters or DC characters that we've already seen in comic books and read stories. We're going to see a resurgence in new storytelling, fresh stories that come from nowhere. Because with boutique theaters, if big companies stop going to them, boutique theaters will have to find something. So you're going to get all these little, I say little, but you're going to get all these like Sundance winners and films that go to big festivals and things, and they're going to get limited theater runs, which is going to be great because it's exposure for smaller filmmakers. That's how you take a nobody director and make them a Guillermo del Toro, you know?
Definitely. I mean, I really hope that's true because I still love original films. I mean, I've seen a lot of great ones recently, especially, you know, with the Oscars, those movies that come out every year, they're just mind blowing. And just keeping up with that gives me hope, especially for the industry and the fact that the Oscars are becoming a little bit more accessible to people, to where it used to be so elitist and so like oh, I didn't see any of those movies, to where it's becoming more, especially with movies like Joker in a category, you know, nomination and things like that, is kind of opening people's mind of what good filmmaking is. And it's not only just the Avengers or Star Wars or any other big event film, which is fine, but it's expanding people's palettes. You know, I guarantee a lot of people would have not seen the Joker movie, for instance, if it wasn't called Joker. And I happened to catch an interview with the director, Todd Phillips, and he said they wrote this movie years before they approached DC about it. The reason that they approached DC is because they wanted the movie to get made. And they wanted it to be something that people would actually go see. And so kind of restructuring it and re-skinning it with a retelling of the Joker's origin was exactly what they needed for it to become the success that it did. And when, you know, have over billions of dollars and then happen to win some Oscar nominations. So, I mean, if we could continue that, where it's solid filmmaking, but even things that are familiar to us, I feel like you were saying, that true storytelling, creative people will come out of nowhere and surprise us all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.